Can I ask the Minister what her department is doing to try and increase the drawdown of the EU funds, particularly from the Horizon 2020 programme?
Horizon 2020 will be a significant funding stream for R&D, with an estimated budget in excess of 70 billion, and I'm very keen, obviously, that the agri-food sectors maximises the drawdown and achieves the full benefit of this, and that's in line with the aspirations that have been set out in the Going for Growth strategy. DARD has provided 3 years funding for a contact point post, which will be based at AFBI. The purpose of that post is to provide the agri-food sector with relevant information to allow them to maximise the drawdown that the North received from the new Horizon 2020 research budget, and that new appointee will take up their post at the end of this month. In addition, my officials will work closely with officials in their other departments as part of the Executive Cross-Departmental Subgroup of the Barroso Task Force, the Working Group. The IT subgroup has produced a communication strategy which clearly sets out the structures in place to help sectors obtain the relevant information to ensure that we maximise the opportunities available under Horizon 2020, and that will be of benefit to the agri-food sector.
Can I further ask the Minister, in relation to maximising the drawdown, what targets is the department setting?
My target is to increase our drawdown of funding by at least 20%, and I think that the fact that we have now put in place or are about to put in place our AFBI contact point, that will play a very significant role in enabling us to be able to do that. Last year, AFBI actually drew down about 1.3 million in R&D funding, and we're working very closely with them to make sure that we increase that. Actually, just last week, last Wednesday and Thursday, I was in Brussels, and Martina Anderson MP actually facilitated a number of meetings with both the Commission, the Parliament, obviously through herself, and also the Council, where we met a range of people to promote the work that AFBI are involved with, particularly around research and development, and making sure that AFBI are known in Brussels, that whenever it comes to drawing down the Horizon 2020 funding, that we're at the table, that people know who we are, people know what we have to offer. And AFBI have done significant work in terms of research and development, particularly working in partnership with other research agencies. So we also had a very key meeting last week with Moira Geoghegan-Quinn, the Commissioner, who will be responsible for rolling out Horizon 2020. So again, that was very fruitful. She gave us very useful information in terms of looking towards the new programme, how to be bidding into the new programme. So I think that that's going to be a major piece of work, and obviously we have executive targets and individual DARD targets to make sure that we draw down the most money that we possibly can for research and development funding.
Sidney Anderson. Mr Anderson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Minister, with reference to the performance of the local action groups in the distribution of rural development funds, can you detail if you feel the delivery model that has been, if it has been a success, and to outline what performance indicators have been used to identify their performance?
Well, I think that there's obviously lessons to be learned. We, in a lot of ways, we inherited this programme and the mechanism of how things have been rolled out. I think the fact that we're now out to consultation, we're going to gather up all the issues on the new rural development programme. We'll be able to gather up all the issues that there are in looking to the new programme, how we can do things better. There'll always be ways to do things better. Simple things about no matter if you wanted £1,000 or £100,000 from the rural development programme funding, it's the same application process. So I think there are a lot of quick changes, positive changes that we can make in the new programme. We launched the consultation during the summer, and that's going to roll out for another wee while. There's a consultation event tonight. I'll be going to one on Thursday night. So that's an opportunity to listen at first hand to those people who have been involved in the LAGs and the JCCs actually delivering the programmes on the ground. To me, that has been successful in that there should be that bottom-up approach to delivering local projects in local areas and meet the needs of those local areas. So I very much want to listen to the views of stakeholders, and will shape the new rural development programme based on the consultation exercise that we carry out, and very much I have no doubt that my door will be knocked constantly over the next wee while on people who have very strong views about how we deliver the new rural development programme.
Sidney Anderson.
Thank you, and I thank the Minister for that response. But LAGs do have their role to play. But Minister, would you consider using DARD staff and their services to deliver more rural development schemes under the new Common Agricultural Policy in comparison to that current model? And would this not ensure that more money reaches the intended beneficiaries?
I think that the way that we do things with the bottom-up approach, with the leader approach, I think that's a very positive way to do things. It's how I would envisage that we will continue to do it in the future. I think there are lessons to be learned. I don't think that we will necessarily need all the structures that we have at this moment in time, but there may be ways that we can improve things, particularly around the current structure of JCCs and LAGs. Do we need that in the future? But again, that's all part of the consultation exercise that's ongoing at this moment in time, and then I hope to be able to make a position on the way forward and announce the way forward later on in the year, certainly the early part of next year.
Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bearing in mind, Minister, the recent meeting between Dart officials and the oyster farmers, what steps are you taking to provide support for them in Carlingford Lough and Lough Foyle after the stock was decimated by the recent virus in July?
Officials, as Mr Rogers rightly points out, officials met with the oyster farmers affected and local representatives on Monday the 2nd September, and I'm told that was a very useful meeting, and officials assured industry that I'm committed to assisting them where possible. The position remains, I suppose, that there is no legislative provision to pay compensation for losses caused by fish disease, and the fact that this wasn't an unusual event in that we have over the last number of years seen this happening, not just in Ireland, obviously, in other areas also. It's been reported mortalities in France, and I think going back as far as 2009. So it isn't an unusual event, but that being said, it is obviously has had a very negative impact on those people that have been affected by it. And I'm committed to working with the industry to see if we can look at what are the research possibilities, because obviously we have to tackle this disease. We have to be able to find a way to help the industry, because we don't want this to continue to be the situation. This is something that can possibly happen to their crop year on year. So we're going to work with Seafish, the industry representative body, and also the Cross-Border Aquaculture Initiative team, because obviously this is something that's impacted in Carlingford Lough, but also we have at Lough Foyle and some of the bays then that will come under the jurisdiction of the 26 counties. So I think that there are a number of key areas of work that we need to get involved with, particularly around research and being able to tackle this disease.
Sean Rogers.
Thank you, Minister. You did mention legislation, that no legislation exists locally. Have you any plans to bring forward local legislation in order to provide much-needed hardship package for these farmers?
As I said, I'm very, very sympathetic to their plight and what's happened to them, and the fact that they have had such major substantial losses. It's not just down to legislation, it's the fact that it's not an unusual event, I think, is the problem. That I think where I think I can assist most effectively these farmers, is these oyster farmers, is that we look towards research, the science, the evidence, look at why this problem is occurring, and try to get to a stage where obviously it's not a major factor. I'm aware of substantial losses of some of these people, and it's a very distressing time. So I want to commit to them that we will work with them in terms of providing advice, support, and also looking at how do we eradicate this disease, which is obviously a problem since 2009.
Joanne Dobson. Mrs Dobson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can the Minister give this House an update on the specific effort she is taking to ensure that the allocation key used to calculate the regional cap envelopes remains the same, so that Northern Ireland's allocation of the UK's envelope is not reduced?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had, over the last number of years, we've had the very hefty debate in Brussels and arguing for regional flexibility, which I'm very glad that we've been able to achieve. I think that whilst we've had all those high-level discussions and we have the broad framework, locally now the decisions have to be taken on how we best use the funds that are available to us, and make sure we design a programme that's fit for purpose and fit for the local industry. In terms of us and our allocation and our share, I mean, obviously we have seen Scotland coming out arguing for additional funding. Unfortunately, we're starting off with a base where there's a reduced budget overall, but I certainly will be making sure, and I have been to date and will continue to do so, engaging with DEFRA to make sure that we get our fair share, that we're not disadvantaged and compared to other areas such as Scotland, Wales and England, and I'll continue to do that, and that's a discussion which actually is ongoing at this moment in time.
Mrs Dobson.
Can I thank the Minister for her answer? And can the Minister inform us in a bit more detail than she gave in her answer what information she has received on this issue from the DEFRA Secretary, and whether she has sought or indeed received an assurance from him that things will not change for us here in Northern Ireland?
Well, we're in the middle of a negotiation. That will be ongoing until we reach a final conclusion. I have engaged with DEFRA myself, but also at official level. That's ongoing. As I said, I'll be fighting the corner for our local industry. I'll be fighting the corner to make sure that we get a fair allocation. As I said, I'm disappointed that we're starting off from a lower budget overall, but that being said, that is the case. But I'll continue to negotiate strongly. I expect that's going to intensify over the next wee while, and I'm happy to inform the House whenever we have final settlement of the deal, but I'm not engaging in the negotiation to come out with a poor deal for the 6 counties.
Jonathan Craig. Mr Craig.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Minister, could you outline what your department is doing to improve relations between the agri-food sector producers, i.e. the farmers, and the agri-food sector retailers? Because there are big issues between the two.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, and I think if you cast your mind back over the last year to 18 months, we've had the debate around farm gate prices, we've had the campaign from the farming unions highlighting the actual prices that they have been paid. I think one of the areas that we obviously very strongly work together on is the whole agri-food strategy work that we're engaged with, both myself and Arlene Foster, the Deputy Minister. We now have that strategy in place, or we now have that piece of work in place, and herself and myself are now working our way through it to see and present an action plan to the Executive later in the year. But one of the key I suppose messages that has come out of that is that there needs to be fairness in the supply chain, that there needs to be that there are equal partners in the supply chain, that the farmer shouldn't be the person that's continually squeezed, that if we're going to be successful in continuing to grow our agri-food industry, then we need to work with all sectors, and we need to make sure that that whole supply chain is appreciated and valued in equal measure. So for me, that's a key area of work in making sure that those two key players work together.
Jonathan Craig.
Thank you, and I thank the Minister for that answer. And in your answer, you actually pointed out a big issue there, how the profit margin is squeezed with the farmer. A lot of farmers fall into the small to medium enterprise category, in fact some of them very small, and they really struggle with that very small profit level. So what can your department do to aid small farmers around that issue?
Obviously, we have continual supports in place by way of single farm payments for the farmers, but also we look towards supports through the Rural Development Programme, and I think that again we'll have a new opportunity to look at new ways of working and new opportunities for farmers. We've had some very obviously excellent successes through the current Rural Development Programme in assisting farmers, particularly around diversification, around food production, improving their premises, all of those positive areas of work, and I'll look forward to doing more of that in the new programme. And I'm very keen to hear the views of stakeholders, including farmers, on how we shape the new Rural Development Programme and what types of supports they would like to see in place, because obviously we want them to remain competitive and sustainable for the future.
Barry McElduff. Mr McElduff.
Can I ask the Minister what her department is doing to improve access to high-quality facilities in rural communities? And I ask this in light of some recent criticism, unjustified I feel, at the way that RDP money is being spent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the criticism is unwarranted. I think that some of the projects that I have visited, particularly over the last couple of months over the summer recess, I took the opportunity to get out and about and actually see for myself how the Rural Development Programme is being spent in rural areas. And I have saw some very, very worthy projects. And we have to ensure that we support rural communities to be sustainable, to thrive, for into the future, and that's very much for me the focus of the Rural Development Programme, particularly in Access 3 and some of the projects that we've been involved with. I mean, there's been a number of smaller projects on the ground, but also some of the bigger strategic projects would really make a difference to rural people's lives, because quite often people are isolated just for geography, just for where they live, so they have no access to services. There's issues with transport, the whole range of issues, the whole gambit of issues. So for me, the Rural Development Programme has been very successful in making sure that we are assisting rural communities to thrive, to be sustainable, and also there's been a lot of positive measures around trying to encourage young people to stay in rural communities, because as the member will be very aware, we have so many young people now travelling abroad for work, and unless we are creative on the ground and actually working with communities to address what they need, then I think we're failing those communities. So for me, these programmes are excellent and very worthy, and I look forward to the new Rural Development Programme and making sure that we can do more of these in the future.
Order members, that ends the period for topical questions. We now move to those